RV Shop and Chef in Port Gibson, Mississippi, having a great look at the history of my family's family from Mississippi. And that is my great-granddad's house. These cannas were planted by my great-grandmom, have been here for 100 years. That is the home. Granny used to take care of some huge urns on the side porch here that had, just, green ferns that were 4 feet tall.
Look at the sidewalk.
These are so old. Well, Wintergreen Cemetery. A really old, one of the oldest in Mississippi. Really old and very established place with some of the oldest trees I've ever seen. Well, and there is Ethel Marks. So that is Granny to me. And Lee Briscoe Allen, Pop and Granny. 1881. She was the one that was a music school teacher, and he had about an 11-piece band. So this is the United Methodist Church in Port Gibson. These windows, in memory, start over here, in memory of Ethel M. Allen and Lee Briscoe Allen. That is Pop and Granny. Lee Briscoe Allen was the owner of our farm, and Ethel was a music teacher who we call Granny. And they met with Lee Briscoe running a band, and Ethel helping arrange the music for them. Like an 11-piece dance band. Lee Briscoe Allen and Lee Briscoe Allen Jr. So Lee Briscoe Allen was Pop, and Lee Briscoe Allen Jr. was my granddad, Jimmy Allen's brother, who died of a brain tumor in his 50s and ran the Allen plantation. First Presbyterian Church, the second oldest Presbyterian church in the Old Southwest organization, April 1807, as Bio-Pierre Church moved to Port Gibson, 1827. Zebulon Butler, first resident pastor, 1827 to 1860. Present structure built 1859. That was just before Grant got in here. The other church down the street, the Methodist Church, was also built in 1859, I think. Well, there's the First Presbyterian Church in Port Gibson. That is a finger pointing towards God on the top. Very unique. A gold-plated finger. Well, the shop and the chef are here in Vicksburg, Mississippi, where a part of my family is from. And we are up at the Vicksburg, Mississippi Bridge. These are some of the cannon batteries that were guarding Vicksburg during the Civil War. There was a siege here, which the Confederates eventually lost. Here's some information about the battery here. And from here on top of the berm over the battery, there you see the Mississippi River and the Vicksburg Bridge and the old Vicksburg Bridge, which is still there as well. And that bridge, back in the day when trucks used to pass, they had to put the body of the truck right up against the railing and scraped their way across because it was too tight for 2 trucks to pass at once without literally putting the truck against the rail. Later they built another bridge. They both still stand. And it's quite a commanding sight here. There's the chef down there. Hey, Lovey. There's the chef. And we are going to have a chance to drop by the visitor center here in just a second. What do you think? It's chilly out here.
It's chilly.
This is called Navy Circle. Of course, the river was a key point of transit of men and weapons during the Civil War, and so control of this point was very important. My dad was actually born on Fort Hill, of all things, here in Vicksburg, Mississippi. The actual hill where the battle was fought. That, of course, is one of the latest developments. A so-called showboat where there's a casino. It is essentially on there you see how they use the old bridge. A ton of traffic goes across that bridge. That is rail freight. Intermodal, you see there. So that bridge is actually being used for rail freight. Check out the current down there on the Mississippi. It's brisk. And this is the Vicksburg Siege plaque from the Mississippi Historical Commission. Bloody and long siege. Pemberton, head of the Confederate forces, surrendered July 4th. Interesting date. Ulysses S. Grant was the Union. Noisy here at the visitor center. Those guns down there, there were hundreds, if not thousands, as I was growing up in the various parks. I think they've been filtered out at some level. But there you can see, I know some of those were Parrott guns, maybe even rifled cannons at some point. Probably mostly smoothbores. There is the river bridges. A really nice view of them here in Vicksburg. The 2nd day of December, 2024. Beautiful day.
RV Shop and Chef. We're here in Vicksburg, right on the bridge, and we're fixing to head into the visitor center, so stay tuned.
Well, in the Deep South, you still see some of these really grand old buildings. That happens to be the courthouse in the center of Vicksburg. Sign there shows that Vicksburg was founded in 1820. The new courthouse is across the street there. And that, as I suspected, is actually a rifled cannon. Now you're looking at Vicksburg Battleground National Park here, and they talk about the importance of, I think they call this Vicksburg National Military Park. And of course, this was where the Mississippi and the Yazoo rivers come together. And it is the hub of shipping and military might. And it was important that the Confederacy retain it. And they really threw everything they had at it. As you can see up here, this is a huge, steep hill. And they dug into this hill, and it was a brutal and bloody battle that Ulysses Grant finally prevailed. But the park's really interesting. This is a big park with a large space here for people to drive through and see the various monuments from all of the states and the various battles that were fought in and around here. It's, I don't know, maybe 14 miles or so up here, I think, of space. This is one of the gun pits, an emplacement here on the top of the hill. And obviously you can see forever. And they would dial these guns in. There's lots of stories of battles of the ironclads and the sailing ships that ran these blockades to supply Union troops. And some made it and some didn't. But this was quite a vantage point. More of these guns up on the top. This is also a 3-inch rifle. I don't know if you can see the rifling in the barrel. So rotten. But yeah, I know Parrott made a number of these, and they were real innovation in terms of accuracy. That's a 3-inch gun. If you're over here, much bigger. th Mississippi Light Artillery, 6-pounders. Interesting. So now the barrel is not that much bigger around. Now that you can see the rifling. Look at all these ridges in here. If you can get an angle on it. That is why these guns were so much more deadly, is that the projectile had a much truer path. That barrel has grooves cut into it, rifling, and the projectile would begin twisting as it came out the barrel, and it would fly much straighter and truer as a result of that rotation. The USS Cairo was a ironclad gunboat that was built for battles on the Mississippi River, and they were literally outside covered with iron straps, kind of, or plating, and were low to the water, unlike sailing ships, and they were very effective. The Cairo was sunken here somewhere in either the Yazoo or the Mississippi. And then eventually a big resurrection project was done to get it off the bottom. And so they went down underwater with subs and dredges and all this gear and finally brought this thing back up. And it is an interesting piece of civil war. Well, they exhumed all of this off of the floor of the Yazoo River. You can see it's really purpose built. Cannons everywhere. I'm gonna guess this was oak. Steam driven. It was full of cannons, and I would guess the reason that they knocked down the chimneys that were sticking out above the water is so that the Confederates couldn't come in and recover the cannons. They were so short of weapons that The Union had all the foundries and the factories that produce this kind of armament up in the north, while the Confederates were largely a farm community. And so had they had an opportunity, they probably would have tried to exhume these guns. Here you have the visitor center for the USS Cairo. Union gunboat that sank here. Ironclad. Fascinating evolution of ships in the Civil War. And there's a shop you can go in. Uniforms that were recovered. Look at that mortar. There's a whopping cannon there. That thing probably weighs a ton. All of these are buried almost like in a formation facing this tree here, which I assume has been here since the cemetery was built. You look at these magnolias, they're very slow growing. Look at the size of the trunk going up. Still here. Great somberness here. Go.
Illinois, Vermont, Iowa, These are all Iowa.
Interesting fact, soldiers after the Civil War from World War I also buried here. And look at these trees. How's that for amazing? It looks like it's made out of concrete. It's so old and dense.